Hey guys, this is Jennifer from Rig for Epic, and today I'm talking about a game called Eternal Strands. This is my first video review for a game that came out in the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks. The last three videos I've done are for retro games for a Bioshock series. So yeah, we're breaking new ground with this one. I just want to say I'm doing reverse reviews, so something new. I'm hoping that people like it. I'm going to give you my score first, and if that's all you need, that's all you're after, you can get the score and go about your day, and then I'll continue with the rest of the review. So I'm giving Eternal Strands on PC a score of 90 out of 100. I may change my scoring system in the future, but for now that seems to fit. So what is Eternal Strands all about? Well, I played it on PC obviously, and I really like this game. It's one of the best games I've played this year so far. Basically you play as Bryn, who is a weaver. In this world, weavers are basically like mages, magicians. They can control magic. Now the basic story to the game is mages and weavers, they had this like central area called the Enclave, and something happened and it all got sealed off, and when all the area got sealed off, the rest of the world basically went to shit. And so weavers or magicians were mostly blamed for this due to it being sealed off, and so they live as kind of pariahs now in society. You play as Bryn, like I said. You go off with this group of other weavers to find this like magical enclave that's kind of sealed off, and the tutorial to the game is you breaking in through the magical barrier and like getting inside, and that's where the game starts proper. So as a point of reference, I would say the game this reminds me most of is like a light version of Monster Hunter, Monster Hunter World. So each area isn't very big. I don't think it's more contained, and I think that's a really good thing, because as you set off from your camp, which is like your central hub, you go on expeditions, and your main goal is to gather resources, to explore, to unlock parts of the main story, and then also to find these large boss encounters, which come in the form of creatures or large like humanoids. I don't want to spoil them, but you'll see them as you go forward. And then once you've gathered your resources, you head back to your camp, and the various NPCs do various things for you. Now your camp is made up of like a forge, you've got like a library, you've got like a potions person who does all your files, you've got like somebody who organizes the camp and like helps you expand certain parts of it, like your inventory, and overall it works pretty well. I'd say the forge is probably the most important part, because you can not only craft new items, but you can also reforge items. Now this is pretty interesting, because the items, the materials you pick up are tiered in different colours. So at first you've got brown, then you've got green and blue, purple, and so on. And so let's say you're looking at a sword or a sword and shield. You have like numbered slots. So the first slot takes 8 amounts of material. So if you've got 8 of that material, then you can put it in that slot. If you then get 8 of another material that's more superior or offers different stats that you want, then you can re-slot it with that, and you get the other materials back. So there's no real risk in creating items. They've made it very open and very user-friendly, so it's just basically a case of creating the item that you want. So I would say the main part of this game is the boss encounters. That's the crux of what you're going out into the zones for. And once you find one of these creatures, they'll usually engage you quite quickly, and then you have to try and figure out what's the best way of taking them down. Now, I've seen some people say these are quite simple, and I suppose if you compare them to, say, Monster Hunter World, they're not as complex as some of them fights, and the environments are not as malleable as, say, Monster Hunter World, where you would like knock down a waterfall or smash down rocks and things like that. But where the game does pick up is you can use your own powers to affect these large creatures. You can like weld their claws to the ground with ice, or like block their face with your ice wall, and so they can't see, and then maybe start working on different parts of their body. So for example, in the Drake fight, if you damage their wings, both their wings, then they can't fly properly anymore. Or if you damage the legs of a creature that likes to stomp, then it's more it's more reluctant to do stomping attacks because of the damage. And so the first time you fight them, you kill them, you get some resources, and then you go back to your codex inside the camp, and they will formulate a strategy which you can then read. And there's a certain way of killing them. So, for example, with the Drake, you have to say knock its horns off, and then damage one wing, and then at that point, its lotus will appear on its back, and that will mean that you can then rip the lotus out, and that will give you a strand. And that's pretty much the most important thing you're going to be looking for, because these strands, they then go to a different NPC in your camp, and they either give you a new power in frost or fire or kinetic, or they will enhance a power you've already got, and that gives you way more options in terms of combat and the way you traverse the world. So outside of the main boss encounters, there are obviously creatures and enemies running around, and I would say this is probably one of the weaker parts of the game. Not that the creatures are hard to fight, their AI is pretty good. Like if they see you, they will make their way towards you, they'll climb up rocks, they'll climb up surfaces, and they usually work in packs well together, especially the creatures you encounter at the start, like the dog creatures. But I would say the bigger problem is that there aren't that many, and once you get to the later levels, I felt that while they are visually impressive, they tend to go for this like Lost Civilization look quite a lot in the later levels, and you get these humanoid creatures, these golem type creatures, that are fun to fight, but I wouldn't say they're as fun as, say, the fireflies or the, you know, the little dog creatures. And so I don't know, maybe they were starting to run out of steam towards the end of the development. I'm not sure, but yeah, if I was to say anything to the developers, what I would like in the future is a little bit more range in combat, so you've got some more interesting ways to use these great abilities, these magical abilities you've got in more different ways. There are loads of ways to use them. You can freeze enemies and then attack them. You can literally pick up your flame and throw it at creatures. There's endless possibilities with that. But I would say in terms of creature, actual enemy variety, that is definitely something that could be improved. So in terms of the actual story and the characters, this is one of the areas of the game, again, I've seen some people criticise. The characters they're quite two-dimensional. They're your standard, you know, you've got your boss character who is in charge of the group. You've got your codex person, you've got your forge person who's quite tough. They're well acted out. The voice actors are pretty good. I enjoy listening to them, but there's no real darkness or grit to the story. There's no real choices. There are just a few dialogue choices, but that doesn't really affect anything. Like, doesn't affect anything at all, in fact. So I would say maybe flesh out the characters a little bit more, maybe. But again, I do respect the fact that this team obviously they know what they wanted from the game, and they knew where their strengths were, and they focused that on the magical combat, on the graphical side of things. The game looks beautiful. The environments look very interesting. I would just love to have seen a bit more depth to the experience, because once you've killed the boss in an area and you've got some resources, there isn't that much to do. There's no villages with NPCs, there's no dynamic raids or anything like that. It is very much find the boss character, get your resources, and then get out. So I think I'll call it a day there, guys. That's my review for Eternal Strands, out on PC now. I recommend it. Yeah, it's a really fun game, and it's a really promising start for the new studio, Yellow Brick Studios. If you could like my video and subscribe, that would be awesome. If you could give me some feedback, I would appreciate that very much, as I've just started this YouTube channel, and yeah, I obviously still am very new to this. So yeah, any comments or feedback are always appreciated, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.